go back, file, place. I don't want to scale. That's what I'm trying to find something that's a little bit smaller. Okay, here we go. Okay, so you'll notice that the image is still relatively large. Okay, now what's different about InDesign and Illustrator is that when you place an image, it actually creates two things at once. It creates a frame for you, and it places the image inside. So it makes two things. In Illustrator, it just places the image and that's it. In InDesign, it makes a frame and it places the image inside of it. How big do you think the frame is? What do you think? Any ideas? It's the exact same size as the image. So it looks at the image dimensions. Let's say it's 5 by 5, and it's going to make a frame 5 by 5, and it places the image inside of it. So when I go to the image, you'll notice that when I hover over it, do you see something activate? You see that? There's a little bullseye or a target. This is different than Illustrator. This does not occur in Illustrator. So this is unique to the software. So what's happening here is that there are actually 3 ways that I can activate or engage with this frame image combination. There are 3 ways that I can engage with it. There's the actual frame. That's the outer edge of the object that I see. If I click on the bullseye, that activates the image placed within the frame. If I click between the edge and the bullseye, say right here, anywhere out within the edge of the image, but not on the bullseye, it selects both of them. Okay, so let's see this happen. I'm going to select only the outer edge. So you'll notice that, let me zoom in here. When I select or click right on the bounding box, you'll notice that my cursor changes to a double arrow. And when I click on this point, this is called a reference point, by the way. When I click on this reference point and I hold my mouse down on it and I drag to the inside, what would happen if I did this in Illustrator? What would happen to your image? It stretches it. It creates a non-proportional scale. So it scales it, right? So let's see what InDesign's going to do. Let me see when I let go. What did it do? Did it change the scale of the image? No. It cropped into the image. So I'm altering the frame that's binding the image or holding the image. So let me go to the right. I'll do the same thing. So let me go over here, and I'm going to click on the reference point. I'm going to close it. It reframes the image. I'm going to go to the bottom. It reframes the image. Okay, so if I click right on the edge, I am altering the frame. Is that clear? Okay, so let's see what happens if I don't click on the edge and I don't click on the bullseye. I'm avoiding the bullseye. If I click here, what does it do? It allows me to reposition the image. So this grabs both the image and the frame. But if I click only on the edge, it's grabbing the frame edge. Okay? Now let's click on the bullseye. Let's see what happens when I click on the bullseye. I click on the bullseye. What did it just activate? You'll notice that we see another bounding box that's spilling beyond what I see. You'll notice that this bounding box is a different color. It's an orange. The frame is blue. The bounding box for this is orange. This is the bounding box of the image inside the frame. Okay, so when you click on the bullseye, it focuses on the image. It's okay. I like the sound effects. So when I click on the bullseye, you'll notice that if I use my arrow keys, see how it allows me to move the image? Is the frame moving? Is the frame changing size? No. So when you activate the bullseye, you isolate the image inside the frame. And I can also scale it. So watch, I want to scale. So now I'm doing a non-proportional scale, but you can see it's manipulating the photo within the frame, but it's not manipulating the frame. So I'm going to hit Command-Z a couple of times to undo that. So the point is that when you work with an image in InDesign, you actually have 3 things in play. You have a frame, you have an image in the frame, and you can work with both of them at the same time if you want. Okay? So I'm going to click not on the edge, but I'm going to click not on the bullseye, in between, in this spot. So this activates both of them to move them in collaboration. Now, when you select an object in InDesign, it usually populates this control bar. And as I mentioned in our previous lecture, this is primarily what we see in the control bar, unless I'm affecting text. So you'll notice that I have my reference point up here, and this reference point is looking at the little reference points around the perimeter of my object. So this is giving me the position of the object in X and Y. So you'll notice that the position is 1.8 by 1.32. And if I move this, it allows me to move the image in X, and it allows me to move the image in Y. And it gives me the position of the upper left corner, the position of this. Does that make sense? So this is really important in InDesign because InDesign is a layout application. It allows me to arrange my content. So InDesign is concerned, or is concerned for you as a designer, about the position of your objects, and you should have an awareness. Now, I want you to see, if I move this over here near the corner, you'll notice it sets the reference point to 0, 0. So you'll notice that that is where we are on the rulers. 0 here and 0 out here. That reference point is right on 0, 0. Now I'm going to move the up arrow on X once. 0.625. Then I click it again. 0.125. So each click is a 1/16 of an inch. Each click is a 1/16 of an inch. It rounds up to a clean decimal. So that's actually a really nice feature because it assures that if you're using these arrows, it's going to give you logical units of measurement. It's attention to detail, basically. And so when you're setting up a layout, in many cases, you are concerned about accuracy of your content. And these little arrows have that built into it. So it's just a nice little feature. Now, this is the width and the height of the content that I'm looking at. But you'll notice that when I activate the width and the height, I'm making the width bigger. Is it altering the image inside of it? No. It's only altering the frame. It's only altering the frame. So if I want to change the width and height of the image, what do you think I have to do? If I want to alter the width and the height of the image, what do I do? What did I do earlier to isolate the image? I clicked on what? The bullseye. So once I click on the bullseye, now if I go to width and height, it'll change the width and height of the image. Does that make sense? And I'm actually looking at the X and Y of the image as well, so I can manipulate the position of that also. Now the last thing that I'd like to share with you, you'll notice I clicked off. I'm not selecting anything. I clicked off the side. I'm clicking back on the image frame combination. There's also a scale variable. So when I go to scale, you'll notice that I can scale this out, scale this up or down, and set percentages, or I could scale this down 1% at a time by clicking the up and down arrow. Now when I go to percentages, is it scaling only the frame, only the image, or both? Both. So scale affects both. So there are some weird little nuances to these settings, and that's what I'm trying to convey to you, that depending on the feature that you're engaging with, it's going to manipulate the information in a particular way. And if I want to isolate the photo, I click on the bullseye. Okay, so that's really the major point here, that we have a frame image combination, and if I want to isolate the photo, I click on the bullseye. That's really important. So I want to look at placing the image in a unique shape in a second, but before I go on to that, any questions or concerns? No? Everybody okay with that? Angela, what's up? The placing part, or which part? So I think what's important here is to know that when you place an image, there are really two things working together. There's a frame, an outer edge, and an image placed inside of it. The frame is activated by clicking directly on the edge and engaging with these little reference points. So I can change the size of the frame by manipulating that. And if I want to manipulate only the photo, Angela, I have to click on the bullseye. Okay?